Do we get a countdown?
Oh, I might have turned it off. Yeah, no countdown.
No countdown. How am I supposed to know when it starts?
I know.
You got to be like the track starter. Be like, runners, take your marks. Finn, we've finally done it. It's been 2 years in the making, but we finally landed Norda shoes.
In our Discord chat, I posted the clip from Wayne's World where that guitar behind the casing, he's like, I will have you. I will have you. I don't know if you remember that clip from Wayne's World, but great moment.
No stairways to heaven.
We finally got him.
We finally got him, and we finally ran. We got both. So this is another combo review. We've got the Norda 001 and the 002. Finn and I both ran in both of them, and we are going to talk extensively about both of these shoes, some of our likes, dislikes. We'll break down the construction, which one is best for you. Do you need both? So on and so forth. Before we go any further, just wanted to throw it out there that these shoes were provided to us by Norda, but we're under no financial obligation to say whether we like a product or not, because we want to keep these reviews authentic, beneficial for you. No one's going to get to preview or watch this footage before it gets published to YouTube. Definitely one of the things that Conversational Pace takes pride in is, we dive deep into these shoe reviews, and we keep it honest, we keep it real. So with all that, let's dive into some of the shoe stats. Both the 001 and the 002 are $295. That's kind of their base price. They've had some that have been more, that have been like special collaborations. Like I know they did a 001 with Zegna, which is kind of like a pretty high fashion designer company. And I think those ones were like $400. They did a Satisfy edition one that was also very expensive, but you can get it for $295. The weight of my 001, and for the weights and the sizing, both my 001 and 002 are a US size 10.5, as per Norda's recommendation to go up a half size. I listened to them. We will touch more upon that in a bit. So my 10.5 in the 001 is 11 ounces, 313 grams. My 002 is 10.5 ounces, 295 grams. Stack height in the 001 is 21 millimeters in the forefoot, 26 millimeters in the heel. And I was never able to confirm whether that was just the midsole or midsole plus insole or midsole, insole, and outsole. My hunch is that number is just the midsole foam thickness, just based off of shoes that we've run in the past. Like if it was outsole, which is 5 millimeters, plus this insole, which is like probably almost 4 more millimeters, that wouldn't leave very much room for the midsole foam. So I have a feeling these are foam-based measurements. So 21, 26 in the 001. And then in the 002, it's a lower stack shoe. It is 15 millimeters in the forefoot, 19 in the heel. So we're looking at trying not to get lost here, 5 millimeter drop in the 001, 4 millimeter drop in the 002. Moving on to the materials. This definitely kind of one like the ethos of Norda is building a hyper premium product. So that definitely all starts with the upper, which both these shoes are created with a one-piece woven upper that has Dyneema woven into it. So I believe it's like a part, kind of classic polyester type mesh, but with a lot of Dyneema fibers into it. What is Dyneema, you ask? Dyneema, fun fact, was actually originated in the yachting and sailing world. It was seen in competition first in the early 90s on some of the ultralight sails on the racing yachts and racing sailboats. It then made its way to the ultralight backpacking world because it's very, very lightweight, very, very strong. Finn, you had a good fact about it with its tensile strength.
15 times stronger than steel. And I think, I feel like if people are still running recreationally and competitively in the year like 2400, this might be the one shoe. These might be the two shoes that make it to that year for people to be like, what were people running in the year, 2024? Well, they were running. This was one of them.
Yeah, because this upper is not going anywhere.
Long.
So it's made of Dyneema, and that's the other thing too, is anything that comes from the yachting world is expensive. Anything that comes from the ultralight backpacking world is expensive. That is why these shoes are a little bit expensive. You get that hyper premium material in the upper. So it's a one-piece upper, ghillie style laces for just the bottom few eyelets on both shoes. I don't know. I'm not going to keep holding them up. We'll do some Hollywood magic. Gusseted tongue. Both shoes, the tongue has no padding, just like a little bit of extra overlay on it. There actually is like a small overlay across the top of the toe on the 001. All the other pieces are more reflective elements than anything. Small overlay across the bottom. Both shoes have a pretty robust toe bumper. On the website, they say the 001 and 002, like the Dyneema uppers, are the same, but they definitely feel different. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. Yeah, there's in the 001s, it feels like the outside of the Dyneema material feels like almost like a pair of jeans.
Yeah, like a backpack or something.
And then the material on the upper of the 002 feels like a wind pant almost.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. Like this almost feels denim-like and the other one feels like nylon-like. But when you look at it really close, you can see that it's still a very similar weave. I think it might just be like the actual stitching process is a little bit different. So that's one of the, I guess, kind of differences. The biggest difference between the two shoes on the upper is in the heel. So the 001 has almost no foam in the heel cup. It's just some extra laminated fabric to give it its structure, as well as the outsole wrapping up to the bottom of the heel to give it its shape. But taking it right off of Norda's website, what the reason for the 001 having almost no padding, they say, is, quote, for a uniquely adaptable heel lockdown. And the 002 has our more traditional heel cup. So this one actually feels like it has perhaps a plastic heel cup down in the bottom, and it has a traditional foam liner. It feels very much like many other shoes we have run in the past. And they say that this is for a more precise fit. So I'm not really quite sure what the difference between a more precise fit and a uniquely adaptable heel lockdown is, but this heel cup alone, like someone might very much like one versus the other or opposite, because they do feel pretty different. Both shoes have the same midsole. It's just different stack heights. And we were talking about this offline too. This is Vibram SLE foam. So it's actually Vibram's own in-house made EVA midsole. And what they say it is like the ultimate combination of responsive, lightweight, and ultra durable. And to my knowledge, these Norda shoes are the only running shoes that have this midsole foam.
Yeah, you don't need like plates or stabilizers to like achieve like the stability in that format.
Yeah, that's definitely their claim, and we'll dive into what we think about these foams in a bit. But it's just one chunk of Vibram SLE foam, and it's some sort of mystery EVA blend, but it's not like a P-Bax or a plastic based foam. There could be some rubber in it. It almost feels similar to some rubber blended foams, but that recipe's under lock and key over there in the Vibram HQ. But no plates, just a big slab of it in the 001 and a slightly less big slab of it in the 002. The outsole is the same on both sides, and it's a mega grip. It's a light base mega grip outsole, 5mm lugs. It's kind of right in that, I don't know, Finn, what do you think? It's kind of right in that zone of like a do everything sort of outsole. It doesn't seem like it's majorly specific towards anything.
I mean, I would even go as far to say it's a road to trail shoe in a lot of ways. Like I don't think it's advertised that way, but it's road to trail.
Yeah, I did I did road runs and treadmill runs in both of these shoes, and the outsole feels totally fine. I like the directions of the lugs. I thought the little like fake studs were kind of interesting. I think that's where they actually do put the studs on their studded models of the shoe, but I just thought it was kind of funny. It reminded me of like when you buy a new bike tire and it has like the little nubbies on it that you want to like go and rip off. I don't know. Not much more to add about the outsole. Anything else?
Well, I was just going to say, this is one of the few full coverage outsoles we've reviewed. Typically, there's just parts there, and that's usually what, like a weight saving measure. In this case,
Yeah.
they're not cutting weight in the outsole.
Yeah, and like I understand why they would be going for this full length outsole. You know, that definitely adds some protection to the midsole foam, and it helps keep the midsole foam from breaking down in some of those spots just due to like big rock hits. So that's going to help with the durability. It is actually impressive that they were able to have such a beefy outsole, and the weights of the shoes are not out of control. You know, the shoes aren't very light, but they're light enough. All right, so what kind of testing mileage did you get in these guys?
Okay, so in the one, I got a measly 33 miles. In the 002, I got 104 miles. So did my due diligence in the two, failed miserably in the one. I ended up getting about 20 walking miles in the one, though. I want to add as a caveat, because I was telling you this offline, I was really struggling to get any initial run in the V1 because of just all like the abrasiveness of the heel cup. And two things had to happen. One, I needed to walk in the shoe to sort of break that area in, like kind of mold it to my foot. I also ended up wearing a thicker sock when using that shoe as well, just to not deal with so much like, again, like abrasion against my Achilles and just like that whole like back, heel, ankle area. So yeah, just those two caveats on why I didn't quite hit mileage. But yeah, I will say with the one, once you do get to that point of break, and I think you would agree with this too, once you get to the point of break in with that, the heel section of the shoe, it ends up being fine. But there is like, it's not an out of the box ready shoe. It needs to mold to your foot.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Neither of these shoes are really like out of the box ready to go. They're definitely a shoe that benefits from a bit of a break-in period, especially the 001. So I don't know, for lack of a better term, I forced it in the 001. I got 101 miles in it. And you motivated me to tally my time in vert for all these runs. And I'm going to do that for all the shoes moving forward. So 101 miles, 17 hours of running, 17,000 feet of vert. 002, I got in 72 miles. Definitely could have taken it to 100, but just for the sake of time and coming back from the Black Canyon 60K, the miles were just taking a little bit longer to get back under the feet. But 72 miles, 12 and a half hours, 12,000 feet of vert. So like my average mile pace was quite a bit faster in the 002. And that's probably because I did end up doing a couple workouts in it.
I didn't get an exact tally. By the way, Strava, if you're listening, you should make this feature. I think it's a super easy adjustment to your gear section, but I'm training for the Cocodon 250, which makes getting miles easy, but I am running slower. So this off the top of the head was about 22 hours time on feet. And then the one was about 5 hours time on feet.
Yeah, I would love for Strava to be able to add time in the gear as well as total vert. So going back to the fit of the uppers of the shoes, as I had said, one of the main differences, the 001 has no padding in the back of the heel around the Achilles. The 002 has padding. You definitely fell onto team 002, it seemed like. So what about the 001 upper did not agree with your foot?
A lot of it was honestly, a lot of it just had to do with the heel section. And then a lot of it was just like speculating what would happen different times of year. So I talked about the heel issue. I think this is a wider shoe too than people might anticipate. So when I'm stepping out of my own shoes, so to speak, and thinking about somebody else, I think that like the midfoot hold could get a little sloppy in the one. I think runners with like narrower feet or lower insteps will find that like you really have to pull the laces pretty tight on this shoe to get a good hold, if at all. So there's that concern. And yeah, I think also depending on the terrain you're going to be on, again, the one being a very wide shoe, especially through the midfoot, Yeah, I don't know. There's just that like security question that I have. And then there's just like the downsides of Dyneema material covering your foot. I think like heat retention is an issue. We ran all of our miles in the shoe in the winter months. I actually think that this Dyneema material was a benefit in the winter months, but I can see how in hotter conditions that could be an issue. And then I would also just say drainage is could be an issue for me too. Like there were a couple like puddles that I went through. There's no like drainage ports on the one. So I think like if I was at the Black Canyon 100K, for example, where there are multiple river crossings, there could be like lingering like water retention issues with the shoe. So a lot of them were just like speculation. I didn't quite have like the exact training environments to mirror these concerns, but yeah, besides the heel, midfoot hold, and then just like terrain slash environment specific qualms.
Yeah. Yeah, this 001, it took me a little while to figure out. So usually I immediately go straight up to the top eyelet for most of my shoes to get like a better heel lockdown. And I did that, and the lockdown was incredible. Like some of the best lockdown I've ever had in a shoe, because this upper doesn't stretch at all. Like it doesn't move. So like once I tied my foot down, like I could go down anything, and like my feet are not moving forward. So that's a huge plus of this upper. But the problem that I ran into was when I tied it all the way up, it would make such like a secure fit around, my ankle and my Achilles. The angle of this Achilles cup plus just this top bit of fabric here,
Yeah.
it would like suction straight to my Achilles. And then when I would run downhill, it would just jab like straight into my Achilles. And I did one longer run where like, I climbed for like 2,000 feet and then was halfway down that descent when I stopped, undid the lacing, and switched to just the regular eyelet, not the top one. And it actually ended up being better. It didn't make the lockdown any worse, but it loosened the heel in a way where the fabric didn't jab into my Achilles.
So interesting. I actually might have copied you because we might have been even texting about it, but I think you told me about that lacing strategy. On the very next run, I took this shoe out. I did the same thing, but I tucked this piece in and it was able to stick. And
did it stay?
It acted like a guard.
Dude,
all of like the, what do you want to call it? Like chafing issues, they kind of went away. Again, you would have to tie them because this is pretty, you and I know this is pretty flimsy.
Yeah.
Because I had tied so hard at the top or so secure at the top, this stuck.
That's actually super interesting. I wonder if that's like an accidental engineering feat of genius for them, because like that actually makes a ton of sense, because this piece here where the two pieces of fabric are like welded and stitched together, it's just like super abrasive. And the only way for that to work was I had to make the heel loose, which was fine. So then over the course of after about 50 or 60 miles, this material has started to just work in and get a little bit more flexible. And then now having 100 miles on it, like from miles 80 to 100, I've had virtually no issues. And it's like, I can put the shoe on and head out for a run and not worry if my Achilles is going to blister or anything like that.
They should have just like stapled this in, by the way. They should have just had this turned in anyways. But yeah, it made me think like
it's very interesting.
If these removable midsoles are all the rage, how about uniquely customizable heel cup protection or something? I don't know.
It's an interesting thought for sure. I had no issues with like stability off trail or, going fast in the shoes. I thought the Dyneema lockdown is like, I would almost go as to say like, it might be the lockdown king across the shoes. Like I'm talking like normal Shrek levels of lockdown in both the 001 and 002. I would even go as to say it was even better in the 002 because the shoe is just narrower and lower volume. Also, I like this heel cup better. Even though I ran less miles in this shoe, I knew that you weren't able to run as much in the 001. So I logged more miles in that one. You logged more miles in the 002. I liked the heel cup of this one better. Lockdown, incredible. You can run so fast in this shoe. But going to one of the other kind of qualms that you had said is breathability concerns. And I 100% agree with that. And I think it might be because like this company, Canadian company, I think born over in I think it's Quebec. But like the Canadian mountains, like not really known for their heat. During the winter time here, this shoe has been great. Both of these shoes have been great. The warmest, I actually did take these down to the Bay Area last week, and I did go for a run when it was about 75 and sunny. And this is gonna definitely depend on the person and whether you like are prone to getting really hot feet or not. But 75 and sunny, I ran in the shoe. My feet were definitely sweating a little bit more than usual, but it was still fine. Like my feet weren't uncomfortably hot. I don't get very hot feet. I'm pretty good in the heat. So in hotter weather, I think I'm actually going to do fine in either of these shoes. But for those who need a breathable upper, this is going to be a tough pill to swallow in the summer months. But like you said, during the winter, it was like pretty nice.
One of the trade-offs, and you and I think both agree on this, I experienced it more in the 2 just because this was the shoe that I got more miles in. One of the benefits of like a single piece of material with this Dyneema on these shoes is like minimal overlays, which is awesome because I think one of the big things that I have always liked in shoes that offer that is there's just more flexibility in the forefoot. And like, I think we talk a lot about like having a wider toe box to allow our feet to split, but I also think there's just a benefit to having less material, even in that like metatarsal area, to allow more flexibility of movement, which is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I remember the first run I went on in the 002, this, the U throat of the shoe, this bottom part, it did dig down into my toes just a little bit, but that was like a first run only sort of thing. It did not bug me at all since then. So like everything broken, totally fine. Moving on to the underfoot feel of the shoe, the midsole, outsole, and the ride. Let's just do a couple like comparisons with the 001, 002. So the 001 is thicker, more cushioned, a little bit wider. 002, lower to the ground, less cushion, a little bit narrower. Did you have a preference? Just straight up, like did you just like one more than the other?
I actually think I liked the midsole foam in the 1 better. What was weird to me about the 2, and I don't know if you have the 2 on you right now, but you can feel this. There's not as much midsole foam as I was expecting, which is interesting. Like this does become more like a Hoka normal Chirac kind of comparison. But like you'll see if you like press your finger inside the shoe, you'll see that there's like a bathtub like setting of foam around the edges of the midsole. And then there's like a dip in. There's like a lower, lesser amount for the rest of the foot, and it almost creates like a bathtub type security stability scenario. I thought that was really interesting. Like they literally constructed the midsole in a way to create like a natural like bathtub stability type setting for your foot. It was just a weird experience for me. Like I wasn't expecting stability to be driven by that.
You don't see that very often in such a low profile shoe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I liked the midsole feel of the 001 better than the 002.
Yeah.
This 002 midsole, like it's really fun. Like it's fun. But it's just simply not enough for me for super long runs. If I do, I have to run very carefully. And then like that's not efficient. I'm purposely having to slow down and just in order to wear this shoe. And then I also did some faster workouts in this shoe, and it was a blast. When it became not a blast was when there were some rocks involved. Running fast down even like, a gravelly dirt road, I got a lot of rock hits to the point where I was then like starting to like run a little bit timid. So perhaps a thin rock plate would have actually been beneficial for this shoe for faster running. If you are in the camp of needing a shoe that is kind of flexible, more minimal to the ground, good ground feel, this is one of those shoes for sure. Similar to like the Hoka Zenal, except the Zenal is more race ready, being like ultra lightweight, not very durable. This thing could handle some mountains and some training like pretty easily.
For sure. By the way, I forgot to like close my last thought. I'd be curious to get your take, but like I talked about that like bathtub type construction for the midsole foam and the two. I like that on the one, it's just straight up a wider platform. Like if I'm gonna like choose which method of stability I want, I would just rather have a wider platform shoe, which I think the one has than the two.
Yeah.
And then like the other thing that is interesting to me in like the ride of the one as it contributes to the overall durability of the shoe, like we have no questions about the Dyneema lasting forever. Same thing with this like Vibram light base outsole. But one of the, like this midsole, I do think like, even though I've only got 30 miles in it, 33 miles, I think it will last longer than most people expect. Like when you have a bit more of like a firmer EVA type midsole, it is going to last longer. I think it's going to break in nicer. Yeah, then like most bigger cushion shoes, it's going to break down faster, but not with this Norda one, which I think is cool. So you get a bit more longevity than you expect.
It is a pretty dense midsole foam. And, I think the question might be then, why does it feel so soft? Like while the upper took time to break in, the midsole didn't take really much time to break in and felt pretty good right out of the box. And the reason for that is because both the 001 and 002 ship with a TPU beaded midsole, which there's a couple companies that are doing basically like a super foam midsole. Yeah. And let me tell you, this is awesome. Like this midsole is 100% going from these shoes into other shoes. Like this is an expensive ass midsole. Innovate's Boomerang insole, they actually sell that separately. That one's like a full like P-backs midsole. Saucony does it as well, and some of the craft shoes used to do it as well. But that is one thing, like Norda did not skip over the midsole, like very high quality midsole. And like usually after 100 miles, like it is packed out, like it is totally flat. This has squish to it still. So like it's actually doing something, and it's thicker in the heel than the forefoot. That's another thing too. It's like a variable stack height insole. So kudos to Norda there for going the extra mile on the insole, and that's going to contribute to like the nice step and feel and durability of the shoe as well. Something that normally gets overlooked. Let's talk just briefly about the outsole. My hot take is I think this is in contender for one of my favorite outsoles.
Does it dethrone the Hoka Mafate?
I think it does. And like one of the other best all-rounders was the Topo outsole. Yeah. I think this is better than the Topo because it's full coverage.
Yeah.
It doesn't have sections of exposed foam. Yeah. I don't think the Mafate needs a full coverage outsole because the Mafate is so thick, but for like a lesser stacked or more moderate stacked shoe, having this full coverage outsole is awesome. And I thought the lug pattern was fantastic, like great on the roads, great on the hard packed trail. It shed mud and snow nicely. Like there wasn't anything where I thought that this, midsole struggled. I thought it was fantastic.
On the outsole, a lot of people who are looking at these right now, if you can see them, Brett, maybe you can do a B-roll shot. The raised nubs, are these gimmicks or do they actually serve a purpose in your opinion?
I think they serve no purpose. Okay. But I like that they're there. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what the use case would be other than to like prime the audience to create some like subliminal level of trust that this outsole is going to be amazing in a variety of conditions.
Yeah. And like the winter version of the shoe, that's where the spikes go. So maybe it was cheaper for them to just do this with the outsole, like it's one mold, and then they could just cut the holes out and put the spikes in. I don't know. Okay. So this is a fantastic outsole. It's going to last a while for sure. We touched about durability a little bit, and kind of just to like recap that, I think I'm in agreement with you as well, where like the upper is indestructible. It's almost debatably overbuilt with how indestructible it is. The outsole is also pretty indestructible. I mean, it would take a while for you to wear down this outsole. So then the last question is, the midsole foam. How long does the midsole foam last? A lot of people who've commented on the channel have gotten tons of miles out of these shoes. So, it appears to be one of the more durable shoes because of Vibram's SLE midsole and all the other components, which kind of rolls right into the value of the shoes. I mean, they basically cost twice as much, but if they last twice as long, then the value's fine. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the value of this shoe, or what does the value of even mean for something like this?
This might shock people with what I'm about to say. And if you want to insert some sort of drum roll in here, you can. I actually believe that Norda 1s and Norda 2s are a budget. Yes, you heard me say budget option for a certain category of endurance athletes. Said category is thru hikers. I actually think that the Norda 1 is a fantastic thru hiking shoe, purely because most thru hikers, at least the ones that I talk to, care deeply about durability. And before anything can be said about the outsole or a midsole in their shoes of choice, the biggest limiter is blowouts on the upper material. Like for me, Brett, I'll send you pairs of my Brooks Cascadia 8s from back in 2014. I went through 3 pairs on the AT. Wish I went through 1 or 2. Probably could have with a Norda. Every single time I had to swap out because just had massive blowouts on the sidewalls and up near the big toe and the pinky toe. It was a mess. Like it became a safety hazard. So I think Nordas actually could be in the running for a thru hiking shoe.
That's a good call out to the audience. Are there any thru hikers who are watching this video who have thru hiked a long trail in the Norda? Or anyone who just secured permits for this summer, AT, PCT, maybe check out the Nordas and report back in 6 months. But I think so. There's a couple. One, if you do get twice as many miles out of this shoe, which I think is very plausible, especially for the 001, the dollars per mile is great. But as we've said with kind of like the normal Chirac, the Speedlands of the world, where you're also doing is you're kind of voting with your dollars. Like, yes, you might be able to buy a competitor shoe that costs half as much from the big brand, but what you're doing is supporting a small brand who has passion in this trail space, and you're allowing them to make what they believe is, the best product that they can make. So I think, being able to, support smaller companies with your dollars, even if it's a few more, there's value in that. And I think that's really fun. I think it's fun that the trail running world is starting to see boutique shoe brands. Yeah. We see it in the cycling world where it's like you can get your specialized road bike for $3,000, or you can get the handmade one in Colorado. They do the exact same thing. The Colorado one costs twice as much, but then you're supporting that brand. And when you show up on the start line or your group ride, they're like, oh, that dude's a homie. He's supporting the locals. So I think there's definitely a bit of that in the value. Going to some competitor shoes, I wrote down a few shoes where I just thought the 001 lined up against. I wrote down the Salomon Ultra Glide 2, the Ultra Mont Blanc and Mont Blanc Boa,
okay,
Nike Wild Horse, and Saucony Exodus Ultra or Ultra 2, whatever they're on. Kind of our medium stack, soft but not mushy shoes that are meant for running long distances but aren't our maximal stack ones. I think that's the category that the 001 kind of falls right into.
Which Saucony shoe did you say?
I said the Exodus Ultra.
Exodus Ultra, yeah.
The Peregrine, I would lean more towards the 002, but I think the Peregrine is more shoe than the 002. So it kind of, I'm either putting the Peregrine on both lists or I'm putting it on no lists as a competitor shoe, and I'm leaving it out. For the 002 model, there's a few less competitors. Maybe there's definitely some that I missed, but three that came to mind were the normal Chirac, the Brooks Catamount 3, and the Hoka Zenal 2, all lighter weight, slightly more flexible shoes. Yeah, Finn's got the Catamount here. I know you said right before we started recording, you said your direct competitor was the Catamount 3.
I think that to me that's the most applicable than the Zenal 2. But I agree with everything you said.
So, this is our lightweight shoe. But as with like the Zenal-ish, definitely the Catamount 3, definitely the Shrek, and definitely the 002. These are all shoes that you could take for a pretty long run. Like
Yes.
you could go pretty far in them.
In fact,
So
six of my runs in this shoe were of 3 hours or longer in duration.
So I know we're getting a little bit lengthy on this review, but I've got two more things. One, would you race in them?
No.
I guess you said you would through hike in them.
I would through hike in them. And
but that's in most cases that's not a race.
Here's the thing, especially with the 2. You know, like I can't not judge a book by its cover here. Like this, like I am so blinded in a lot of ways by how beautiful this shoe is that if I don't race in it, at the very least I want to walk around town in it. It's a beautiful, beautiful shoe.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm definitely turning this into turning into a casual shoe for me. I'm gonna like try really hard to wash this one. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think I would see myself racing in either of these shoes. The 002 because there's not enough shoe underfoot for me, and in the 001 I'm still just a little bit sketched out with the heel and the Achilles. And then also too, unless the temperatures are like absolutely perfect, I would worry a little bit in a race scenario about my feet getting too hot. Training scenario, not as big of a deal. Oh, go ahead.
I forgot to say, so with sizing, because I forgot to mention this earlier, if you want to add this in earlier, you can. I'm normally a size 12. I did their advised half size up in the 2. I actually wish I went an even further half size up, so a full size up for the 2. The half size up in the 1 was correct for me. So for me, I went a half size up in the 1. I should have gone a full size up in the 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, the 10.5 worked well for me for both shoes, but I could tell that the 002 is even still a little bit shorter than the 001. Okay, last question before we sign off. Thank you to everyone who's still listening. And if you're not, yeah, we have long shoe reviews. That's just what we do. Okay, Finn, is there a place for both of these Norda models in your shoe quiver?
Definitely. And I think one thing to highlight is the Norda 2 is not an evolution of the Norda 1. It's a completely different shoe. They just think about numbers in their line differently. This is the like lighter, more performance-based shoe in their line, and the 1 is like the long haul trucker, road to trail kind of utility, use it wherever you feel you want to type shoe. So yeah, if I was like a Norda evangelist or a Norda athlete, like both very much have specific use cases.
Yep, I actually totally agree. On the Venn diagram, while they have many shared parts and material, their use cases don't overlap too much. So like over the course of an entire training week, like there's days where I'm like obviously picking the 001. There's training days where I'm obviously picking the 002. So I think there's absolutely room for both in your quiver. But Finn, if you were only allowed to add one of these Nordas to your quiver, which one are you going to pick?
I'm blinded by the beauty of the 2. I think it's a sleeker sports car type ride. I'm probably going with that one.
So I agreed with you until I put about 75 miles on the 001. And now that the upper is cooperating a little bit better with me, because I really like the midsole and outsole, if I had to pick one for my shoe quiver, I'm actually going to pick the 001. And I'm glad that I picked one, you picked the other. I would like to know which one everyone else is going to pick, or maybe you have both. Which one do you like?
I feel like the comment section, and I read all the comments, and I feel like the comment section in this one is going to be pretty active because I've observed that the Norda fans are very passionate, and they show up a lot in like our year-end review episodes and stuff. So I'll be curious to hear what they think of this.
Yeah, it was one of the most, it's probably the most requested shoe brand on the channel. So we finally did it. What's next? I don't know. A follow-up question. What shoes do you want to see Conversational Pace review next? We have a lot in the studio right now. But if there's any that we don't have, and there's like an overwhelming amount of people saying that, like we'll try and make that happen. So thanks everyone for watching. We are in the thick of it now. Finn, I'm so glad that you're training for the Cocodona 250 because we have so many shoes to run in long miles, and we are to the best of our abilities. We are going to stick to that 100-mile limit to make sure that we are still the number one high mileage shoe reviewers in the space. Is it fair? Can we claim that now?
100%.
We are the high mileage shoe reviewers.
We are.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Volume hogs.